Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show, and oh boy, I just kind of joined in. You guys already got part one with Chelsea and Mercedes setting it up, because I didn't want to take time away having translation going on with Nilsa Alvarez, our female correspondent, boots on the ground, 7M News Network, front lines of everything political and going on in the heavens and on earth in the Latin American battle over America. So now you're reaching out into South America.
Yeah.
We're expanding North America now down to the southern frontier. But we have Honduras Congressman Thomas Zambrano, who's a courageous Christian leader. Now imagine this. You go into politics in the United States, it's kind of like prestige if you go into Congress. You go into Congress in South America, and depending on what country you're in, you could be the target of almost a illegal criminal regime that takes over and then wants to lock you up or do worse. It takes courage and faith to be in government in these South American nations. And Honduras, I heard a report when I was down in Guatemala a year ago, and it was that there was legislative success happening on pro-life, legislative success happening on pro-family, legislative success happening on preservation of marriage, husband and wife. I mean, it was one victory after another, and I was so inspired by the progress. Then, like, my head almost blew up when I heard that there was like a radical leftist female gets elected to president, and she takes over and starts to rewrite the rules of even how the House is run. Mm-hmm. And then they start pardoning criminals that have left the country. This is exactly the kind of lawlessness which we've grown to observe in the West with the United States. Mm-hmm. We're shocked by it.
Yeah.
But this is like
in Honduras.
In Honduras, of all places.
Of course.
So we now know the story. I got a couple of questions for you. One, did you know that it would be a dangerous job for you when you went into politics, or were things normal when you went in, and have they just gotten worse? So tell us about Honduras. Give us an understanding.
¿Sabías, te lo traduzco?
Sí.
¿Sabías lo peligroso que era entrar a servir en el Congreso, o será que fue algo que progresivamente escaló a ser peligroso y tal vez al principio no lo veías tan peligroso?
This is why I should have paid attention in Spanish class, because if I had, I could have asked the question.
Sí, va a servir de clase a los amigos que nos escuchan en inglés para aprender español.
Yeah,
Así
this
que
is a good Spanish class for those watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Por el espacio. Este es mi cuarto periodo de diputado en Honduras.
So this is my fourth term in office since 2010
Estoy
in
en el
Congress.
Congreso desde el 2010.
Okay.
Since 2010, he's been in Congress.
Y la situación que estamos viviendo hoy es atípica, irregular, nunca vista.
The situation we're experiencing right now is atypical and completely different than what we had ever seen before.
Nunca imaginé que íbamos a estar en el Congreso con una situación ilegal, ilegítima.
I never thought I would be in Congress to witness an illegal move, and it's just something I never expected.
Sabíamos que íbamos hacia un sector de oposición, pero constructiva.
We knew that we were heading up with an opposition, but we thought it would be constructive in Congress.
De ir con una posición de construir y colaborar en las cosas positivas a favor del país por parte de este gobierno.
With a position to build together and construct in support of a better nation.
Y también señalar las cosas que sean incorrectas.
And to be able to point out the things that are wrong in our nation.
Pero lastimosamente no empezó así este Congreso en enero.
But sadly, that's not how this Congress started in January of this year.
Porque empezó con una situación grave para la democracia en Honduras.
Because it first started with a very serious issue regarding our democracy.
En la cual se estableció un presidente del Congreso Nacional.
In which they established a president, basically the Speaker of Congress. They established that person with power.
Sin los votos necesarios.
Without enough votes.
Sin el procedimiento constitucional.
Without the constitutional procedures.
Sin las reglas legales.
Without the legal rulings.
Porque fuimos a votación de la directiva del Congreso en Honduras en enero.
Because we went to vote on the congressional directive in January.
Y hubieron dos grupos.
And there was two groups.
Uno que eligió legítimamente un presidente con 79 votos de diputados propietarios.
One side that elected the Speaker of the House or of Congress, which they also call President of the House. They legitimately voted 79 votes in support of someone for that position,
y el otro grupo impuesta por el gobierno con
And-
49 votos de diputados.
and the other side, which was a total of 49, voted for someone
Y al
else.
final coordina el Congreso el grupo de los 49, que es minoría,
And the small group of 49, which was the minority vote of
y
the
es
Congress,
el único Congreso en el mundo donde 49 diputados son más que 79.
it's the only Congress in the world where 49 is more than 79 in the vote.
Right. So it's like if we had midterm elections and suddenly Republicans take back the House and the minority party is put in charge and the minority leader is made equal with the president. And so I got that story before we got to the interview. So we're pretty outraged. You have no mechanism to address this. I mean, do the people care? Do you have media at all? Is your media completely out to lunch or what?
No hay algún vehículo para poder arreglar este asunto. No
Bueno,
hay fuerza del pueblo, de los medios. ¿Será que están en vacación?
Bueno, existe un tema de estos gobiernos de izquierda.
There is a topic with these leftist groups in
Establecen
government.
políticas de miedo, de temor,
They're instilling political fear in the people,
de persecución.
of persecution.
Y en Honduras ya inició una persecución política contra todos aquellos que alcen la voz en contra de este gobierno.
And in Honduras, they've already started a political persecution to anyone who opposes the message of the left.
Ya empezaron a acusar y perseguir personas y políticos de nuestro partido, que es el principal de oposición en Honduras.
So they've already been attacking and persecuting people of our party and people who speak on behalf of our values of our party.
En los próximos días se anuncia una acusación criminal con más de 80 periodistas, los principales del país.
And in the next few days, they are launching an incriminating attack regarding 80
periodistas.
regarding 80
Los
journalists,
principales del país, los más vistos.
the ones most seen in the country.
Están por acusar pastores en Honduras,
They're about to accuse pastors in Honduras,
empresarios,
business leaders,
y eso ha venido a ocasionar que queden en silencio los grupos.
and this has caused for many of these groups to go silent.
Y por eso estamos en la
Yeah, that's
situación
lovely.
actual.
And
Isn't that
that's why
lovely?
we're in the situation we're in right now.
So, how much of your country is church? You got a lot of people going to church over there?
¿Cuántos de la población van a la iglesia? El porcentaje de los que asisten.
30%,
no.
40%?
Como 30,
Got Catholic?
40%.
Más del
Catholic?
católico y evangélico son 50 y 40 y tanto. O sea, más del 90% de
More
la
than-
población en Honduras se
But-
denomina entre católico y evangélico. O sea,
The
es
ma-
fuerte la población.
Yeah, the majority of Hondurans identify as either Catholic or evangelical, so we're seeing over 90% of Hondurans
Well-
church going.
Pardon me for saying this, but what the heck is the church thinking? How did they elect this nutty situation?
¿Qué pasó que hasta la
Is this
iglesia?
another one of the cases where the pastors are just dumb and don't know what they're doing?
Que él quiere saber cómo es que la iglesia
Well, maybe you
permitió
can't call
de
them that.
que-
You're a politician, but
Bueno, yo creería que
él quiere-
they elected this
porque
mess.
él dice, los pastores, la iglesia,
tuvieron-
ellos eligieron esta presidencia.
Con algunos amigos pastores les hago el llamado que Dios no está tratando en esta ocasión solo con los políticos.
I call on my fellow pastors in my circle to understand that God is not just
Sino que ha
dealing with
permitido
politicians,
esta situación en el país
that He's
también para
allowing this
tratar con la iglesia.
situation to deal directly with the church.
Y esperamos que despierten ahora, que abran los ojos ahora.
And we're praying that they open their eyes now and they
Y
awaken
que no
now.
lo abran más tarde, que después no vamos a poder salvar este país.
And not too late, because then it would be too late to save the nation.
Y estamos convencidos que la iglesia va a jugar un papel fundamental
And we are convinced that the church will play a
en
fundamental
este
role
proceso de transición que
in
estamos
this
llevando a
transition
cabo.
process that we're in.
It's so irritating. I mean, you got a narco terrorist just got elected president in Colombia. You got a leftist communist criminal overtaking of the government of Honduras. And the church in both countries has enough
Grande.
people to create a populist backlash. You know, they couldn't persecute the apostles when they did a miracle because the people, they had a problem with the people because the people all were seeing the miracle. So they had to figure out how to get them arrested at night or in secret. We need to mobilize the people.
Hay que
Hay
movilizar
que
la
movilizar
gente.
la gente, estamos de acuerdo. Ya empezaron ya los pastores a despertar en Honduras, los políticos.
Yeah,
y
we are on
tenemos
the same page, and many pastors are
esta
awakening.
ola de la ideología radical de la izquierda que está apoderándose de las democracias en Latinoamérica.
And the ideologies of the left that are very radical and that are trying to take hold in our
Y
nation.
lo que nos lleva de reflexión a los políticos, a las iglesias, a los sectores, que creemos en valores, que creemos en la familia, que creemos en la vida.
And what we're instilling in our network of pastors and friends and leaders and people in Honduras is that we have to unite in our values
De poder construir coaliciones de país,
to be able to build coalitions as a nation
en la cual ya no solo esté un partido al frente,
so that no longer it's one party taking the lead in our
sino
government,
representación de políticos y sectores de la sociedad.
but that there would be a representation of all the sectors of our communities and politicians,
Y poder establecer una estrategia
and be able to establish a strategy
para corregir y mejorar todo lo que hicimos mal
to correct and improve everything that was done
o
wrong
lo que dejamos de hacer.
or that we lacked doing.
We have to do this now. So, how are people going to get in touch with you?
¿Cómo puede la gente seguirte o contactarte?
Bueno, a través de mis redes sociales,
You can go to my social media networks, my
Instagram,
handles, and
Facebook,
Instagram,
Twitter.
Facebook,
Twitter.
Twitter,
And what would we look for?
TOMMY,
Okay, thank you. Tommy.
Tommy,
Zambrano.
and then
Zambrano.
Yeah.
yes, Zambrano.
Zambrano.
Zambrano. Hey there, you just listened to an excerpt. That's a little bit of the podcast. So if you want to get the whole thing, because there's a lot more content there, go to lancewallnau.com/podcast. And instead of getting an excerpt, you get the entire message. It was right after the period of Cyrus that Israel faced its greatest challenge, its near extinction. And it was going to be through the political system that was trying to wipe them out. And that's when the story of Esther comes on the scene. And Esther's a very powerful story because it is the end time story for the church, and especially for the church of the United States. It talks about where prayer and fasting created a divine series of events that would unravel Satan's plan in government to destroy the move of God and the people of God. It involves the force of favor, the scepter of Esther, and the power and the revelation of the signet ring anointing. And I don't have the time to go into that now, but I'm going to say that you will be greatly edified and strengthened by this message on the scepter of Esther and the power of God's giving you access right now in America to move the needle and to change the country. Combined with this is an interesting prophecy that most people have never heard of. It's the Billy Graham prophecy. It's the prophecy that comes as a result of his teaching, his ministry, and the timing of his death. The fact that he actually is laying in the United States rotunda with all of the state dignitaries attending his funeral, and it's happening exactly at the timing of the Feast of Purim. The story of Esther could not be clearer, and the warnings of Billy Graham and the hope of Billy Graham for America go with it. I want to give you the Billy Graham prophecy and the scepter of Esther as a special offer right now. And what you do is you go to lancewallnau.com/Esther and get a hold of these two powerful tools. They'll edify you, they'll challenge you, and they'll give you the tools to prevail in your own spiritual warfare.